We now bring you a conversation with Professor Jayalakshmi Gopinath, the Principal, Warden and the Head of Department of English of the Anantapur campus of the Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning. She is one of the very old devotees of Bhagawan Baba. In conversation with her is Dr. Rajeshwari Patel.
Om Shri Sai Ram. Welcome to Radio Sai Global Harmony. Professor Jayalakshmi Gopinath, ma'am, it is a pleasure to have you here with us. In the Hindu spiritual tradition, among the 9 modes of devotion, one is Shravana, or listening to the glory of God. You, ma'am, have had a long association of almost 55 years with Bhagawan Shri Sathya Sai Baba. So our listeners who have tuned into Radio Sai today are in for a spiritual treat. Professor Jayalakshmi Gopinath is Principal, Warden and Head of the Department of English, Sri Sathya Sai Institute of Higher Learning, Anantapur campus. But more importantly, she is perhaps one of the oldest devotees of Bhagawan. Ma'am, as you take a walk down memory lane, we would like you to open your golden casket of treasured experiences. Please tell our listeners a little first of your early life. How old were you when you came to Bhagawan? And how old was Bhagawan, physically I mean, when you came to him?
Thank you, Rajeshwari, for all that you've said. I was in my early teens when I came to the lotus feet. And it was, I suppose, late 1947. So you can gauge the age of Bhagawan. It was about 21 years, I think.
Yes.
Bhagawan should have been that.
Okay. Your tryst with God, did you sense it coming or did it happen unexpectedly? What brought you to Bhagawan?
Well, I cannot call it mere chance. It must have been divine design. When father had come preparatory to retirement to settle down in Bangalore, I was still studying, so I was with my parents. My father would go every day on walks, and there he met a person one day who told him about Bhagawan Baba and that he was residing in the house of Shrimati Jayalakshmi, the coffee magnate. Father himself, well, I suppose so, had certain occult powers. He could hypnotize, he could cure certain diseases, and ours was a very pious family. So father got interested, and then he said, well, let me know where he lives, give the address, we would like to go. That's how father, mother and I went to Shrimati Jayalakshmi's house for the first time.
Did you feel at any time during your early childhood a kind of a seeking for God, which you think brought you to Bhagawan?
Yes. Well, it might seem very funny. As a little child, I had an idol of Sri Krishna, of clay. Somehow I would fondle it, I would take it to my bed even when I slept. And mother, I suppose, didn't say anything. She sort of indulged me. And for a long time, that attachment to Krishna and the idol was there. Apart from that, our family itself was so very devoted, and they hosted these sadhus and sons in our house. So I suppose that must have affected me.
All these things together.
Yes. To love God.
Yes. It fostered kind of...
to merely love Him,
yes,
not ask Him for this or that.
Yes.
And that is how when we saw Bhagawan Baba, well, I don't know, child. There was something that happened to me. It was totally subjective. A tremendous ecstasy. And my eyes filled with tears. Baba was very fragile at that time.
An instant recognition at that time? Because
well, I did
you felt the experience of ecstasy immediately on seeing him.
Immediately as I saw him. And when he looked at me, he threw a rose at me. Well, that was enough, you see. And he was very kind to my father. He took him aside and spoke to him. And I suppose that day sealed the bond between divinity and us. And throughout it has been that.
You must have visited Prasanthi Nilayam in the 50s and 60s several times.
Well,
what was Puttaparthi like in those days, ma'am?
Well, we were there during even the old mandir times.
So what was it like, Puttaparthi? At
Oh, the
time?
old mandir then was a very, very small building of rough stone.
Mm-hmm.
And Bhagawan's residence itself was none too unenviable.
Okay.
And it was all wilderness, all around. And what Prasanthi Nilayam is today, you cannot imagine what it was in those days.
What was Bhagawan's daily routine like in that glorious past?
In the old mandir,
Because you have
Yes,
been a
yes.
direct witness to it.
yes, in the old mandir, there wasn't anything like direct routine. Baba is always many-faceted, and every day it's novel. And early morning, of course, then at that time we didn't have Suprabhatam. We were just a handful of devotees, a very small place, the old mandir. And as usual, the discipline, the men aside and the women aside, that is it. They would not
On
come
either
together.
side, yes.
Yes, they would not come together that way. And early morning, as soon as we got up, well, I can't describe to you where most of us, when we were in a state of heightened bliss, which perhaps the Bhagavata, you see, relates about Sri Krishna and his devotees. I don't know. And it was so with me. And Baba would be up early.
At around what time, ma'am?
Well, we would all be...
What time would you have? I mean, you didn't
5?
have a regular
Yes,
routine
around
for
5 we would be
darshan.
up.
Oh,
And Baba would be there. No such thing like darshan.
okay.
He would be out of his room. The room...
So everybody just spent time with Swami all
yes,
throughout the day.
he would be moving amidst us. And we'd all be standing and just looking at him enraptured.
Oh, yes.
That's what it was. And then he would play with us. And bhajan time, he would sing with us. Many a time, Bhagawan has sung along with me during bhajan times then. And the altar, of course, was on the platform. And any devotee could go clean it up and keep it in shape. And one little experience I can tell you of those days.
Yes.
We had come after we went to Shrimati Sakama's house many a time for darshan. Bhajans would be held there. Baba told my father, come to Puttaparthi. It was not Prasanthi Nilayam then.
At that time, yes.
Puttaparthi. So once during my holidays, we thought we would make the first trip. And the three of us went. In those days, Bhagawan would be standing right at the portico of the mandir to receive every devotee.
Each and every person.
Each and every
Whatever
devotee.
time they came.
Whatever time. And then he received us. We were so happy. This experience of mine...
Was that your first visit, ma'am?
At the very first visit. And we didn't know that at that time, Baba would give interview to devotees. We were not aware of it. So it was time for us to leave after a few days. And I didn't know. At that time, I was motivated to clean the altar and then put the wicks in order and then cut it. And then if the oil wasn't there, to pour it. And if I could confess, there was a curtain, you see, which was covering the altar from the rest of the place. And nobody could see. Mm-hmm. I would go and hug Shirdi Baba's idol. This is a secret. And I would feel so happy. And that day I didn't know my father and mother had been called for an interview. I didn't know that. Then I was cleaning
So you
the
were
altar.
oblivious of other things, what
I
was
didn't know.
happening in front of the curtain.
I didn't know, Rajeshwari. This was the thing. And as I was cleaning, some devotee came and said, because Baba calls me Jayamma, that is not actually the way I was called by my parents.
But that's how he fondly refers to you always.
Yes. And they said, what is it? Your parents have gone for, and didn't you go? I said, I don't know. By which time the door had been latched from inside. So something terrible sadness overcame me. I sat in a corner and I was sobbing my heart out. After a little time, I heard my father calling out to me, Jaya, come, it's late. Come, let's go. Then I said I shouldn't go out with a tear-stained face. I just lifted my hot, tear-stained face. The tears were just trickling down. And whom do I see in front of me? Bhagawan Baba. And he said, why are you crying? He said it so tenderly that afresh, the tears just came profusely. Then, what do you want? He asked me. At that time, I needed nothing. I said, Swami, I want your photo. I'd speak to him in Kannada then. Then he looked at me with such tenderness, and then he said, you want a photo? If you put the photo in water, it gets dissolved. If you throw it into fire, it gets burnt to ashes. If you tear it, it becomes fragments. Why do you want to have a photo? Keep me in your heart. Young as I was thrilled.
Yes.
And of course, afterwards, he materialized a small photograph and gave it to me. It is with me even today.
So that was your small private interview.
The very first gift that Baba gave me. And that was the first one. A wonderful message.
What are your feelings about what Bhagawan was then and what he is now, outwardly at least?
He is the unchangeable one. It is just circumstances have changed.
Yes.
And the devotees now are coming in
huge
great numbers.
Yes.
And there are so many things that Baba has taken upon himself. There in the old mandir, it was entirely a personal contact between God
and
the devotee. It was just a state of absolute enchantment. That's what I could call it. And another thing which comes to my mind, we used to come to Puttaparthi. My mother had left for Delhi. Mm-hmm. Because my second sister was about to deliver. Father and I were at home. Father, he also became crazy about Bhagawan. So one day he said, let us go to Puttaparthi. Oh, I was overjoyed. And then we came.
Where were you when you came to Puttaparthi? You were in Bangalore then?
I was in Bangalore. And we alighted. Again, Baba was at the portico. He took us inside. And there in front of the altar, Baba just stopped. So naturally, Father also stopped. I also stood there. Baba looked at me and said, sing. I used to be nervous to sing. So I didn't know. But Baba encouraged me and said, sing. And he liked certain songs which I was singing. So I started one song. And as I was singing, I was amazed. And there are few persons who had collected there. They were amazed to see that the garlands which were put on Shirdi Baba and our Baba, the life-size photographs.
Sathya Baba.
Yes. They had garlands right from the top to the toe. First, Shirdi Baba's garlands started to sway, then it gained momentum. It swayed and swayed and swayed so forcibly that all the garlands snapped and fell down.
So this is while you were singing?
While I was singing. And my hair stood on end. Baba looked at me very meaningfully. And then he said, sing another song. So now, of course,
Which was the song, ma'am, which you sang?
He liked Purandaradas's Kirtans and Mirabai's.
So that's what you were
He
singing?
would ask me to sing. And this was Mirabai's. And another song, he said, I started. And the garland on our Baba's picture, the same thing was repeated, swaying, and then gaining momentum. It snapped and fell down. Baba looked at me again very meaningfully. Then I wanted to stop. He said, sing. I sang a third song, and the garlands around the silver idol of Shirdi Baba, slowly they rolled down.
So it didn't snap this time?
No.
It just rolled down?
Just rolled down. And I suppose that was the end of that particular experience. And I knew Baba was very happy.
Yes.
And of course, as far as I was concerned, I was in the heaven of my delight.
Ma'am, by the way, I remember you telling us that you won the first prize in a music competition organized by Bhagawan in the old mandir. Tell us about it.
This was, something impromptu. It came all of a sudden. Parents were to follow. I came first with some devotees. And right as I alighted, they told me a music competition is being conducted by Bhagawan Baba. Well, I thought it's all right. Then immediately one person came running to me and said, Swami is calling you. Mm-hmm. I'm always very nervous to sing in the presence of Bhagawan. I don't know, I felt a sort of a quiver. Then as soon as he saw, it was the mandir was not like this then. It was a little different. It was not so polished. There weren't these embellishments.
So this was not in the old mandir?
No, this is in the new mandir.
Okay.
New mandir. Of course, the altar had the life-size pictures of Bhagawan. And there now, where is the chariot? There Bhagawan was sitting as a judge. And men and women, or boys and girls, whom he had asked to sing, had to go there, sit there, and sing through the mic. Mm-hmm. So after some had sung, both men and women, he called me. I used to always quake when Baba called me to sing. Then he said, sit down, sing. And he named the songs.
Which were the songs, ma'am?
This was again Meera Bachans. Mm-hmm. I sang the song, and then there were a few more participants. At the end of it all, well, I never expected. Baba announced that I had got the first prize, and even today I have it with me. It's a lovely silver cup and saucer, which is tinted with gold inside. And then when he gave it to me, he told me, Jayamma, drink milk out of this.
Ma'am, what did Bhagawan say to you all in those days about his life and mission? Did he say anything at that time?
Well, sometimes, yes, occasionally, if the circumstances sort of motivated Bhagawan to say these things.
So he did speak about his life.
Especially, I have seen his grandfather. Mm-hmm. I think then he must have been about 105 years old.
When you saw him?
I've seen him. He used to come there occasionally to the old mandir. Mm-hmm. Then the new mandir wasn't there. Gaunt, very tall, gaunt. He had a personality of his own, even at that age, as if he's one of the chief persons in the village. Oh, it was a beautiful thing. He would come with a stick and somebody would help him, and they would put a chair in the outside enclosed, that longish type of enclosure where the altar was, and he would sit down waiting for his divine grandson. Swami would come so quickly from his room as he was rushing forth to meet this human grandfather. And he would go to him, clasp his hands, and I've seen that grandfather literally hugging him.
Oh, really?
It used to be a wonderful sight.
Bhagawan has said in, I think in some private discourses that his grandfather was the only person who really recognized his divinity.
Yes, that's what is said.
Yes.
And we could see this interaction. There definitely was a divine bondage between the grandfather and the grandson. Mm-hmm. And in those days we used to have even, during Dasaras and Swami's birthday, procession of Swami in a flower-bedecked palanquin. Mm-hmm. We used to have that. And those days, Swami has given darshan of the avatars to so many devotees. Well, we ourselves have seen once when the palanquin, you see, the people carried Swami, the devotees, and then the procession came back to the mandir, old mandir. Mm-hmm. And they kept the palanquin down, and Baba got off the palanquin, just shook his robe. I was a witness to it.
This was
was in the old mandir.
Old mandir.
And from his robe, just vibhuti just fell off in flakes to such a distance it spread that people started gathering it. And right on his forehead, there would be thick flakes of vibhuti then, if he came back from the procession. And he would just do this, and it would fall. And he would take the flowers, so many of these petals of these flowers, he would take it in both his hands and just throw
them.
They would get transformed into medallions. And my mother got one such medallion, very significant. My father's name was Keshav Vittal. He was called Vittal Rao. On one side is Bhagawan Baba. on the other side is Panduranga Vittal.
Okay. So then each medallion had a different deity on it?
Different deities.
Oh.
Different deities.
Ma'am, tell us one of your most precious experiences that speaks of Bhagawan's glory. Any one of the really precious ones.
There are quite a few, Rajeshwari. I can just mention two. Sakamma, she was very devoted to Swami. She looked after Swami like her own son. He also loved her. Pure soul. But somehow it happened, we do not know divine destiny or our own karmas come in the way. When Baba went to Madras, to a devotee's house, where the wife was a great devotee, she was in trouble. At that time, of course, my father also was there, and Nagamani Amma of those days.
Yes, ma'am.
She was a great devotee. And there was one Thiruvengadam Shetty, and there was Sakamma, and there was this gentleman, one Niladri Rao, in whose house Baba was residing then.
When he went there.
Of course, we did not seek out for the reason. We are all ignorant human beings. We are all vulnerable.
Yes.
And this Niladri Rao, the Sakamma and Thiruvengadam Shetty, somehow, I don't know what happened, they separated from the fold, Sai fold.
Including Sakamma also.
Yes. She was a long-standing devotee. The ones who stuck at that time were my father and Nagamani Amma. Well, all this was over. Mm-hmm. When Nagamani Amma was still, of course, she always loved him. Even in the end, she came to me, came to Swami afterwards. Sakamma was, she had a lot of faith in my father. So she used to tell him, this mandir, small mandir, old mandir, poor Swami, so cramped up. You know, it was a crude stone building. Baba's room was so small. He didn't even have interconnection between his living room and the bathroom. No privacy for Baba. Mm-hmm. Even when he went from his room to the bathroom, he'll all be standing there. Oh. It was a sad thing. So she said, why not we put in effort, collect some contribution and build a good spacious mandir for Bhagawan. That is how it started. So
at that time she was still in Swami's fold.
Yes, that's how it started. Father took it up and some people seem to have contributed. One among them at that time, and he was still a devotee, was this Thiruvengadam Shetty, a very rich person, Vaisya merchant. Mm-hmm. And all that was over. I'll cut it short. Then the new mandir was opened in 1950. 1952, my uncle, Dr. Prasanthi Rao, who was the chief surgeon in the Victoria Hospital, who had come to Swami when he had paralysis, he was a devotee. He and my aunt, we were all in Bangalore then. Father had settled down there after retirement. So they said they would like to have Baba's darshan. My parents, at that time they said, they could go. And I said, I will go with them. So they took me with them. Oh, this was something, it's made an indelible mark in my mind. I can never forget it. The mandir was plain then, the new mandir. It didn't have all these curves and these embellishments and all that. Yes. Baba was standing, it had a portico. And you know the front veranda as it is.
That has remained,
but it wasn't done up so well. Mm-hmm. It was just cement.
Yes.
And Baba had come down, he was standing in that veranda. He gave an interview to my uncle and aunt. I was standing there, he didn't call me for the interview. Then there were some others. And devotees, you see, they were so happy that the new mandir had come up. So some of them expressed, as Bhagawan is standing as Swami, how beautiful this mandir is. And some devotees, you see, they may cast some aspersions. And they said that this mandir would not come up over 1 foot wall.
Yes.
Yeah, that's such arrogance. Yes, they said it.
Before the construction.
Yes. And then they said, Swami, how stupid and ignorant they are. What a beautiful mandir has come up. Swami made a wonderful declaration. The whole world should know about it, Rajeshwari. He was standing there. He became very solemn. And sometimes there was such a change between the Baba who would play with us and talk with us and the Baba who became absolutely divinity personified. and sort of pulled himself to that majesty. So that look was on Swami, and there was a far-off aloofness in his eyes. And then he said, "Let people talk. They do not know. I just have to clap my hands, and a whole mandir will come up. Everything is in these hands." And that declaration he made so loudly, I suppose it went home to all of us. It sort of, made our hair stand on end. Just imagine. He doesn't need us.
Yes.
We think we are doing. He's getting it done by us to get us that fulfillment. That is all.
Yes, to give us the satisfaction that we have contributed.
Yes. And as he said this, he went on repeating it. I have everything. Everything is in my hands. And somehow he felt detached from the human beings, those of us who were standing there, and slowly walked off, climbed the steps and went to his room. Yes. This has made a tremendous impression upon me.
It's really a startling
Isn't
statement.
It so?
Yes, ma'am.
That is it.
Once, many years ago, you were asked by Bhagawan to translate for an interview which Bhagawan gave to Mr. Howard Murfitt.
Ah, yes.
After you returned to Anantapur,
yes,
you shared with the students.
Yes.
And I was also a student then, so I remember this. You shared with the students some of the profound truths uttered by Bhagawan during the interview.
Yes.
Do you remember some of them, ma'am?
Oh, yes. That was another incident where the small interview room at that moment lost its contours. And it became something as vast as space because of the things that Swami said and he uttered. Mr. Murfitt asked this question. Swami, you had incarnated as Shirdi Baba, and now you are the reincarnation of that deity 18 years later. Swami, where were you during the short span of 18 years? Where was I?
18 years, ma'am. 8 years.
8 years.
8
yes.
years.
8
yes,
years. I'm sorry. 8 years.
Yes.
Then Swami said, I permeated the whole universe. There is no such single place for me. I was the whole universe. This he uttered again with such solemnity that again I staggered with this answer. And this went on. This was one of the most important things.
Ma'am, did he not just during this interview, but at any other time in your own experience with Swami, ever reveal to you that he is an incarnation of Shirdi Baba?
You mean personally to me?
Or when you were maybe a witness to it? Did he ever say anything
Well,
about
not personally to me. This, again, I could date it back to about 1954 in the new mandir.
Yes.
Baba then was not giving public speeches. Small circles he would call and just give them these precious jewels of spiritual truths. And I would be one among them in the crowd. There was one lady, Rajeshwari, one Brahmin lady. She started to believe in Baba so much, and we could see the transparent love she had for Swami. She was an elderly lady, and her husband was a famous scientist. Then we didn't have rooms in the new mandir also. So if devotees had to come, they would have to get these tattis, bamboo tattis as we call them. In Telugu they say tadakalu.
Yes, makeshift walls.
Something like that,
A whole sheet.
Pleated bamboo strands made into a sort of a thing,
wall,
As shall we say, a slim wall-like thing.
Yes.
We had to get them, and there would be many people who'd help.
Oh, then you made a...
So sort of a living shelter. And a little bathroom, etc., etc. That's the house, the devotees. Because there was nothing whatsoever except the plain mandir. And she, you see, she also we were also then when she had come. She was a very orthodox Brahmin. Very orthodox. And people were making fun of her. Because once she would have her bath, go to Chitravati and have her bath, she would come with a wet sari and she wouldn't come out lest other people touch her and it contaminates her. And even to her husband, when she had worn this wet sari, and that is the way it was, the ritual, she would make him stand at a distance and keep his foot on the floor. Never give it into his hand. Well, over and above this, she used to cook, and she would be very fond of sending. We used to send in those days, very fond of giving whatever she has cooked to Swami. So Swami is to eat in the left-hand side of Prasanthi Nilayam, not the right hand now, as is his residence. Of course, it has changed now. It has gone to the auditorium. Right-hand side, he would reside afterwards.
The mandir.
Mandir.
Yes.
And the left-hand side, you see, the middle floor.
There was the dining hall.
Swami's residence. He used to live there, and the dining hall, etc. And only some people who were given permission could take the food up, and there would be his sisters who would serve him. So this lady, she would cook, if I could call it in Kannada terms, muddy. Muddy, acharam.
Observing the ritual.
Yes, acharam. And with that sari, she would take, and like she would sort of cover if anybody came near her, she would walk up the steps and place it. Swami tantalizingly, he would come near her and said, Chesko, putting out his feet. She would say, Ledu Swami. She wouldn't touch Swami's feet.
Because of the muddy.
Because of the muddy and the acharam. Swami would laugh and he would indulge her. And people thought how silly she was. Imagine not touching Swami's feet. Could that be greater blasphemy? But she never bothered. Never bothered. She just observed her rituals most sincerely. So we never expected it one day. It was Ekadashi. And in the morning bhajan, some of us would sit in front. And to my utter discomfiture, Swami would make me sing. And this lady also, that day muddy, Ekadashi, she would not take even a drop of water. She sat apart. And you know what Swami did? These are the things I've learned from divinity, you know. How true he is. Satya, Dharma, Shanti, Prem. He's a very concretization of it. So from childhood, I'm indebted to my parents for having brought me to God. So Swami came in, he saw this lady sitting a little apart. And then he told the devotees, make place for her. Yes. See, people were sort of mocking at her. And belittling her as being extremely foolish. And what he did, he told them, make way for her. And you know where Swami's throne is? In the bhajan hall?
Yes.
On the lady's side, he asked her to come forward and sit near his throne.
So that's amazing.
And then he told her, Janakamma, on Ekadashi day, her name was Janakamma, on Ekadashi day, in the evenings, what were you doing earlier? Then she said, Swami, on Ekadashi day, she was very simple-hearted. She said, Swami, I would go to the temples and there would be Puranas being told by some pandits and things like that. I would go there, listen to it and come back home. You don't eat anything in Ekadashi? No, Swami, not even a drop of water? No, Swami. All right. On Ekadashi days, you were listening to Purana. I will tell you a Purana today.
Oh.
My God. And then that day, you asked me whether he had declared at any other time.
Yes, about Shirdi Baba.
That day, you know what he did? First time, he was speaking to a large crowd. A table was brought, a mic was kept. And he said it. He thumped the table. He said, I am the Vedas. It was resonant, echoed throughout the walls of Prasanthi Nilayam. I am the scriptures. I am God. Take this opportunity. If you can understand what I am, well, make best your chances here. Do not carp and criticize and lose this opportunity. But in such a stentorian voice, he said it. Of course, we knew it within ourselves. Baba had not declared it in public. That he thumped the table. I can't forget it even today. I am God himself. That was another declaration.
That is not at all a very common feature at that time.
That was the first time he was speaking to a large crowd.
Yes.
And the first time he was speaking, he made this thumping the table. Now you and I stand on a platform and say, I am the scriptures, I am the Vedas, we will be pelted with stones.
Yes.
We were all dumbfounded.
Spellbound,
yes. And just, we sat there looking at him, what shall I say, not with full understanding of what he was, but absolutely stupefied at the tremendous divinity that was there in front of us. We couldn't believe.
Did he reveal to you all at that time something about the future, ma'am, at least, about what you're witnessing today unfolding before you?
Yes.
Because I heard that Swami used to tell the old devotees about events that are actually happening today.
Yes, he has told us. Sometimes jocularly, sometimes seriously, he would say, seize this golden opportunity. A time will come when huge crowds will come to Prasanthi Nilayam and you will not have access to me. And still, more and more as time passes, you can only see the heads of humanity. You can hardly see me. You may just be able to see a little of my hair. Swami had such bushy hair then.
Yes.
And then he said, as still time passes on, I may have to fly in the sky to give you all darshan. He has made these statements, open statements.
What are some of your memories of Mother Ishwaramma and her relationship with her divine son?
I had a very close relationship with her. She loved me. I don't know what it was. What was the bond between her and me, I do not know. Whenever we would go to Puttaparthi, Swami had given her a room in Prasanthi Nilayam. And she was the one, the only one, not even the father, who could just walk up to Swami's room at any time. He would indulge her. Oh, it was so wonderful to see it. And Swami was always very troublesome.
to the mother.
No, as regards eating. He was such a poor eater. So the sisters sometimes, whatever Swami liked, they would cook and bring it from home, from the village. My God, the way he would dodge them. He would not eat, he would not come and sit at the plate. And then were they to serve, suppose he came and sat for a few seconds, he will eat so little, push this aside, push that aside. And sometimes when the sisters got really tired of coaxing him, they would bring the mother. And then, you see, when the mother came, Swami, tinnu Swami. Yenduku Swami nu tinnavu? She would cajole him so sweetly with the love of her mother. And then,
why are you not eating?
Yes. And then he would eat a little. And he would go on indulging her. He would get lovely saris. And then all of them would be spread in the room. Ra, em kavali niku teesko. Whatever she liked, she could take. And some jewels also he would get for her. He was very fond. I mean, I do not say in the human way. But divinity, I do not know, maybe, well, this may not be a proper opinion, was indebted to the mother for giving him this divine body.
Maybe he was also, as he says, My life is my message.
Yes.
He was teaching us
Yes.
to revere our mothers in the same way.
And he revered his father also. Father also. The father was a wonderful person. We have known him.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, he could speak Telugu, no other language. And he had a provision shop. And he would diligently supply the devotees because there were no hotels and things like that at that time. And I think once in one of my talks, my father took to him very much. My father didn't know so much of Telugu, but somehow they could manage. And when we touched his feet once, with such humility, he said, "Why do you touch my feet?" Mm-hmm. And when we said, "You're the father of the avatar," he used to say, "I do not know. He's great. And he's for everybody. He's no more my son." This is the way he would say.
Very simple person.
Very simple.
Ma'am, you must have been present during the anointing ceremonies.
Oh, yes, I'm anointed Bhagawan.
Is anything connected with that you remember vividly and then related to Mother Ishwarama? No?
Yes. You see, on the birthday, it was there even in the old mandir. It was a tradition where some elderly Sumangalis, devotees, they would go, Baba would sort of instruct them, plates of kumkum, haldi, flowers, fruits, and clothes for the parents, and go with a silver container, which we call, perhaps in Kannada or I don't know, in Telugu also, chombu, silver chombu, we say, big one. I suppose that's the name, if I'm not mistaken.
A container, which looks like...
It is got, made in the traditional way, the thing. And
like a small kalasha.
It's big. It's a big one. Big one. And then they would go, and the mother would draw the water from the well there, and then with the Purna Kumbha, and then, putting those mango leaves and the coconut, it's called a kalasham. The mother and the father, and of course the elder brother was there then, Swami's elder brother. After the mother and the father, the elder brother and his wife, then the sisters, the two sisters. Mm-hmm. At that time, Venkamagaru's husband was alive. I've seen him also. And after that, Janaki Ramaya, who was still a young bachelor at that time. Mm-hmm. This was, the hierarchy or whatever you would call it. They would have to be brought by the devotees with reverence, with the village band and the Nadaswaram.
To where Swami was sitting.
They would be ushered into, that time there was an auditorium. Of course, I should say it was a very crude form in comparison to this. And they would be ushered in by these lady devotees. First, of course, the Nadaswaram and the band, and the lady devotees who were, bringing plates of all sacred things and holy things, items. Behind them, Swami's family would come, and Swami would be sitting on the dais. And at that time, all of us could garland him. So all the devotees would be waiting with garlands in their hand. And first, the mother would get onto the steps of the dais, along with the father. There would be one elderly Sumangali holding a silver vessel of oil, which has been boiled with various type of perfumes. Herbs. And first the mother, it was a sight to see. Swami would bend down, he said, from the throne, and she would take a flower, dip it in the oil, and thrice she would place it on his head, and it would follow. And in those days, some of the devotees also. So father and mother were called. With a lot of trepidity, I was with a longing to do it, but I didn't have the guts to get up the Ra, he said.
He called you anyway.
He called me, and then I've also anointed Bhagawan. It was a wonderful sight. And the devotees, one by one, they would go and garland him. And up to the neck, he'd be garlanded. And each time he would remove the garlands and throw them to a side. That was what it was.
Ma'am, I know from my contact with you that you have a very fine sense of humor. Did you learn it from Bhagawan and Can you tell us of some amusing incident of those early days which demonstrates Bhagwan's divine love for humor?
My father had a tremendous sense of humor. He has bequeathed it to his children.
So you got it from your father. But
I got it
anything relating to Swami's humor, Because Bhagwan also has a very fine...
tremendous sense of humor.
Sense of humor.
I can tell you
one incident, amusing incident.
Amusing in a sense, something which happened at home. In those days, in the early days, early 50s, Swami would come and stay with us when he came to Bangalore. We had a cook, a long-standing lady, very good cook. She would cook the food with some other help. Swami, of course, he's with so much of love. Whether it was to his taste or not, we don't know, because we cook Brahmin food. He used to eat it, and she had so much of devotion. And she was a virgin widow. And a Brahmin virgin widow, her sort of situation is something, none too pleasant.
Mm-hmm.
In those days, and she was, by the time I think when she came to us, she was about 60 years. And the head would be shaven off.
Yes.
And then she had to wear a red sari among us, the Madhva Brahmins, 9 yards, and no blouse. This is the way,
And the tradition.
women were sort of, I would say, belittled, whatever it is. So, as soon as she saw Swami, I think all the privation she had suffered in her life, humiliation, frustration, just welled out and she sobbed. Swami consoled her. Then, as he would come, say occasionally, he would go to her, he would talk to her and all that, and she would sort of have these dry sobs. Then his humor. Yemi, nearly leni tanko.
A tank without water.
Tank without water because of the dry sobs. Swami's sense of humor.
Just one or two very small questions. After all these years with Bhagwan, supposing you were asked,
yes,
who is Bhagwan Shri Sathya Sai Baba and what does he mean to you? What would you say?
As a child, being brought up by parents who are pious and religious, we have listened to many of the stories of the gods.
Yes.
And our own Mat Guru, they would come, we would host them, what we call bhiksha.
Mm-hmm.
And they would do the puja, though it was ritualistic, in a lovely aesthetic way. And this, as from childhood to adolescence, I think, this had seeped into me. And mother would get up early, light the lamp, make the puja ready for father. Father would not sit and do the puja, but whatever had to be done, he would done. But he had a mind and a heart of gold, my father. It's not that I want to talk about my father, but I remember him with so much love and gratitude. What happened was, it had perhaps got registered in our minds that God is a supreme one and everything goes on according to his will. Then the question arises when we came to Sai Baba. I mean, this was some of the very die-hard opinions in those days. Can a Brahmin, I'm talking very frankly,
Yes.
Can a Brahmin go to somebody, who is of a different caste, and such Brahminical rituals and rites are not performed there? How can they go and then worship him? These were the questions even raised by my uncles. My father had 8 brothers. And a very, I suppose, I don't call it a very rigid one, but truly Brahminical house it was. So that was a question asked of my father. And father, of course, did not bother about it. This was one side where our Brahminical family, etc., was concerned. So once, our Mat Jir, as we call him, Swami,
The head of the
the head,
Mat.
Well, he sent word. They have these divans, as they call them. They send their emissaries first to see if the house is comfortable, because they come with a lot of entourage. Many disciples will come. The house should have a well, because the Swami will bathe only in well water and all his disciples. So when the divan came, at that time, in our sitting room, we had just then gone to Baba, and all that I can say is, there are certain things felt intuitively. You cannot give a rational analysis of it. Father was also enraptured, leave alone mother. And I, at my age, I don't know what touched the inner chords within me. Every time it was a feeling of ecstasy and ecstasy alone. How can this happen? It just can't be accidental. And so the divan came, and then he saw this big enlarged photograph of Bhagawan in the hall. In the hall it is, because they've got this sort of huge golden, what you would call mandir-like thing these Swamijis have. They keep it in a big hall, lot of decoration and all that. So the hall was necessary for them. So he looked at this photograph and said, I mean in Kannada, I don't know who will understand it, but it would be nice if I say it in Kannada. Raire, ee photo yardu? Sir, whose photo is this?
He was addressing your father.
My father. My father said, it is a photo of Sri Sathya Sai Baba. Then he said, Raire, Swamigalu bartare, idanna tegedubidi.
What is that?
The Swamiji is coming. Remove it.
Mm-hmm.
Father said, Nimige yake adu? ಆ ಥರವಲ್ಲ, ನೀವು ನನ್ನ ಕೇಳಬಾರ್ದು, ನೋಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳೋಣ. Don't ask me these unnecessary questions.
Your father said it?
Yes. What else father said, you know? It's something. So I was the daughter of such a father. Then the Swamiji came. He had to perforce keep the whole mandir, etc., right under Bhagawan's picture. And of course, lovely puja. Even that, they do it lot of devotion. And the Madhva way of doing it is, in the end, they keep jhula for God. And then they sing these songs, which are lilting and enchanting. They tie the bells, boy disciples, bells around their legs. They keep this tal in their hands.
They dance.
They jump in ecstasy and sing. It's a very wonderful sight. So after the number of days that he stayed with us, he was about to leave. And then he called my father personally. I was there then. My mother was busy elsewhere. Raire Libanni, come here, he called my father. Shall I say it in Kannada or just straight off in English?
Whatever way, ma'am, because if you think there is something profound.
He said, you are the son of Beli Srinivasa Rao, a staunch Brahmin of the Madhva cult. How is it you are going to a Daitya? Daitya means a demonic individual.
So that is how he addressed me.
Yes. Father listened to him. And then he put him a question, Father. Swamigale, could you tell me to what caste Sri Rama belonged?
Beautiful.
To what caste did Sri Krishna belong? Who was Shabari? Who gave to Sri Rama the fruits she had tasted? Can you give me an answer for that? Raire idu adhika prasanga, he said. You're talking too much, he said. Then he said, all right, you are the head of our mutt. I will listen to you. But give me just one sort of mantra wherein I can distinguish Advaitya from divinity.
Okay. He was nonplussed.
Nonplussed. And he said, don't ask me unnecessary questions. So the Swamiji was floored. So to all of us, Swami was God incarnate.
Bhagawan's story is unending. It is infinite in its dimensions. One can hardly exhaust its contents, but stop we must for now. That is all we have time for, ma'am. But one last question, and you may answer briefly. what is your message to newcomers to the Sai fold?
Have faith, unswerving faith. Stop the vagaries of the mind, which goes into unnecessary analysis, because our minds are very limited. Stop the mind from unnecessary reasoning. Have faith, believe, accept, and you shall see from day to day what bliss, what happiness we derive, and how our character develops, wherein nothing bad can ever affect us. We can just cross over onto the shore of divine bliss.
Ma'am, thank you very much for sharing your very rich experiences with Bhagawan, with the listeners of Radio Sai. It was a privilege having you here on Radio Sai. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rajeshwari. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.